You understand, like half the top 10 in basketball is the Big 12. There's plenty of, we will talk football, but also there is basketball. If you're a fan of the round orange ball, this is for you. And if you're a fan of the pigskin, I'm not going to avoid that. I'm joining ESPN Central Texas to talk the entire Big 12 and all of its best headlines. This is Locked On Big 12.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Oh, happy Wednesday night, everybody. Welcome to Locked On Big 12. I'm Drake Toll from America's #1 Big 12 podcast, Locked On Big 12. Thank you for making this show your first listen every single day. If you hit subscribe, I get to keep my job. ESPN Central Texas. I join on the radio every week, and I decided recently, I'm just going to make this a bonus episode. You can hear me talk about people like, ooh, you didn't talk enough about UCF this week. Like, yeah, well, here's the opportunity. Hopefully we talk about UCF. All right, guys, let's hit it.
With 8 representatives in the bowl season for the Big 12. They don't get started until late December, with the first game being Georgia Tech and BYU. But just looking at the schedule for the Big 12 in this bowl season coming up, good representation. And out of the teams that are there, I mean, what's your record for the Big 12 in bowl season? Are they favored in all the games?
Yeah, I think the Big 12 is going to do well. I foresee BYU beating Georgia Tech just because they're the better football team. And there'll be a conversation in a few of these where we talk about teams that at full strength, I don't know if Houston beats up on LSU. I mean, obviously, the Tigers have a bang-up roster and a bunch of 4- and 5-star guys, but they don't have a head coach, and they have lost a myriad of players to the transfer portal. So it's a whole lot different conversation, and that's where these games, the semantics of these games come into play. BYU is much better than Georgia Tech. They'll win that game by 10 points or more, a touchdown or more. Houston has more players like Connor Wigman that want to play in the bowl game. Therefore, they'll beat LSU because they are healthier. For TCU versus USC, this is maybe the most intriguing bowl matchup as far as I don't exactly know what's going to happen. USC having less opt-outs than maybe we would expect in some years. I like the Horned Frogs offense. I don't know if their defense can put up with USC, and the defense wasn't a bad piece of what TCU did this year, but I just wonder, right? It's USC, they're elite offensively. Arizona State has a much better roster than Duke, but without Sam Leavitt and a lot of those guys wondering what their future is and if their coach will still be at Arizona State in a week's time, that's a question mark. Utah should run all over Nebraska, and then I foresee Cincinnati, even without Brendan Sorsby, having a good time against Navy, and then Arizona beating up on SMU. The big question, and where all of our attention will turn, is who Texas Tech plays in round 1 of the college football playoff. But as far as your question goes, I foresee the bowl season being pretty advantageous for the Big 12.
Drake, you mentioned TCU against USC and the offense that TCU brings to the table, but how much different can it look without Kendall Briles there and Sonny Dykes calling the plays in the Alamo Dome?
Arguably better. I mean, there's a difference, and I think a lot of people struggle to understand this and you'll get it as a coach. Like, Ward, just because if your dad, your uncle, your son is a coach, it doesn't exactly mean you're going to be a replica of what they do. I mean, Monty Kiffin is one of the great defensive coaches of all time. Lane Kiffin is more inclined toward the offense. Just because Kendall Briles has the last name Briles doesn't mean he can ramp up an offense the same way that Art could when he was at Baylor. I mean, Kendall has struggled to do that at TCU, and I think that the loss of Briles for the Horned Frogs is not one where the fan base is really up in arms, and not one where they think the team is too up in arms. Their offense this year was not what I expected it to be. Because they had because they had Josh Hoover, I should say, and one of the best quarterbacks in the Big 12 with a whole lot of Eric McAllister, one of them, a whole lot of really good weapons around him. I think that Hoover, the fact that he ended up being around Sorsby in the category of quarterbacks is what I was going for there is surprising. And it says that Kendall Briles may not have been the exact savior of this TCU offense that the Horned Frogs wanted when they hired him a couple of years ago, but I do have faith in Sonny Dykes. I'm excited to see Dykes call an offense.
Drake, we saw yesterday that a few big-name quarterbacks have made the pack to kind of go into the transfer portal. They're making that decision. Is there a chance that we might see one or two of these quarterbacks wind up in the Big 12?
I think you're going to have to see somebody at Baylor, and you'll have to see a transfer quarterback probably at Texas Tech and Cincinnati. Those are the ones that pop off right now. But Arizona State will go into the market for one as well, and I'm probably missing a few, like a UCF, who will look. But the most shocking of these is Brennan Sorsby and the way that it's all coming about at Cincinnati. Ward, you'll like this as a Texas Tech guy. He enters the transfer portal yesterday. On the same day, his girlfriend transfers from the Cincinnati volleyball team to the Texas Tech volleyball team. It is, we're now on not plane watch, we're on girlfriend watch at this point, seeing the moves that Brennan Sorsby makes. So there was also a report, I thought this was very funny, that this weekend a family was staying in an Airbnb. They went to log into the TV, and Brennan Sorsby was still logged in himself on the YouTube account there. Like, oh, that's weird. He was in Lubbock. So I foresee Sorsby being the number one target at Texas Tech. I think he'll end up there with his girlfriend, and what a great place to be. He's an awesome replacement for Baron Morton. Will Hammond, due to his ACL injury, will not be ready for the beginning of the season in 2026 as far as what we know. So Tech needs a guy. Brennan Sorsby can be that, and I think will be that guy. And then for Baylor, you put every chip you have in the DJ Lagway lottery and go full force. You know, his dad is such a big Baylor guy. He is a Baylor legend that you can sway that family into landing in Waco pretty easily. And if Baylor doesn't do that, I'm not sure how many quarterback options you have. This is a guy you got inside trading on. You need to get DJ Lagway. Expect the Bears to go full force for him. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is exactly where I go during the NFL season to make live bets because things change all of the time. Like the other night, I had a bet on the Dolphins to win the game against the Steelers. That was silly. It was stupid on Monday night to do that because the Dolphins didn't win the game against the Steelers. But live, I thought, you know what? The Steelers look a lot better, and I don't really trust the Dolphins. I can still get Steelers early in the game at -4.5. They win by 4.5, and I bet $100 on them, and I only put 50 on the Dolphins. Then I can win more money in the end if I just throw this live bet on the Steelers. So I did. They won by like 14 points, and I get my money back and then some more. FanDuel, you can do all kinds of jazz like that. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly, and it makes it so convenient for me and you. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you with FanDuel.
Let's go back to the college football playoff selections. I thought Brett Yormark was beyond terrible in the lead up and right after the selection.
Yep.
He didn't advocate for the conference like he should have. He didn't advocate for BYU hardly at all when every other conference and Notre Dame's AD were out there every day making their case. Brett Yormark was Claude Rains. He was the invisible man. And then said they got it right after they left a clearly deserving BYU out. I don't know that it's not so bad that those are fireable offenses, and I mean that. He's done a lot of great for the conference, but he was missing in action when they needed him.
Yeah, I mean, this was the big moment for Yormark, who we've learned, I think, about Brett Yormark in the last couple of years. He is more focused on getting this league to Mexico to play football games than necessarily fighting for what's right in front of us. Like John Party at the halftime show is not going to make this conference legitimate as much as BYU getting into the playoff. And so I found it, I'm glad you mentioned that. I found it interesting that he goes to a press conference after the selection committee makes their picks, and he's asked about the whole situation. And one of the first things he spats out is he's mad at the Notre Dame athletic director for making egregious conversation with the commissioner of the ACC. He's like, Brett, that's not what the headline is here. You're supposed to be defending your own teams. I thought what he did to BYU and the lack of respect the conference gave even to Texas Tech is something that it shows Yormark's true colors probably lie with basketball, and they lie in business. And I'm hopeful that there is like Clark Williams did a really good job for the Big 12, and he just left to become the director at SMU. He did a really good job of ensuring that football was taken care of in this conference. And without him, it makes me wonder who is that deputy who really focuses on football, because Brett Yormark doesn't seem like that guy. And when it comes out that BYU misses the playoff and your response to that is, I think the committee got it right. That's just never the stance a commissioner of the Big 12, commissioner of any conference should take in that situation, because from now on, you're giving the committee permission to continue to rig this thing against you and push your teams down and saying that it's fine, we'll roll over and take it. That's not good at all.
Drake Toll, Locked On Big 12 and morning show host of Westwood One, with us here in the press box. And Drake, Texas Tech won the transfer portal last year. Everybody's been talking about it. They find themselves in the college football playoff. Who has to win the transfer portal in the Big 12 to turn their program around?
Oh, that's kind of a long list, and one that has gotten more surprising, but I think it lands with these coaches who are brand new to their schools, like Colin Klein. He's not brand new necessarily to Kansas State, but new to being the head coach. He's going to need to win immediately. Utah, Morgan Scalley is their new head coach. He's going to need to win in the transfer portal immediately. I look at in Arizona, if they want to keep momentum with Brent Brennan and build this thing, they have to go to the transfer portal and find a replacement for Noah Fafita. Who will the quarterback be at Arizona State next year? We have a new head coach. We have new head coaches at now, and this is crazy to me, Utah will have a new head coach, possibly Arizona State, given Kenny Dillingham and Michigan being in talks right now. We'll see a new head coach and already have at Kansas State. We will see one at Iowa State. There is Oklahoma State. There is a half the conference almost looking for new guys in the transfer portal to rebuild. In West Virginia and UCF on year number 2 of their coaches. How well will you go into the portal and find a quarterback? How well will you build your offensive and defensive lines? It's actually that question is scaring me, because so many of these Big 12 teams truly need to revamp and overhaul their rosters right now. Otherwise, their coaches are on the chopping block, or their coaches won't have a lot of support early in their tenures. There are 10, 11, 12 teams that need new something in a big way. I think BYU and Texas Tech feel very comfortable with what they have. Utah to an extent, Houston as well. But there's a long list, a laundry list of teams in this conference that need the transfer portal badly.
Drake, get me excited about Baylor's new defensive coordinator. He had a great year in 2022 when they won the Big 12, but his defensive has gotten progressively worse every year since then. And there's a lot of focus on turnovers, which there's a ton of luck involved in that. That's why the same teams don't lead the country or league in turnovers every year. And you hear a lot of, toughness and grit. And I just want, I wanted a defensive coordinator to be hired and for them to tell me he had a top 20 defense the last 5 years. So get me excited, please.
Well, I don't know about excited. And here's the deal. I remember, Cameron Stewart and I sat in that same studio with you a few years ago when Jake Spavital was hired, and we said, look, here's a guy who has been blacklisted by every high school coach in Texas because he will not recruit high school kids and only wants to go to the portal, who was a terrible head coach at Texas State. We didn't understand why Spavital was the hire at Baylor, and then he ended up having a very, very good 2024 and 2025. So it worked out as a guy who got to revamp his career. And that's what I'm hoping for with the Baylor defensive coordinator job. And I kind of want to shine the spotlight on less of this hire and more what Dave Aranda could possibly do to give you and every Bears fan hope in 2026. And that is get out from under the light of an athletic director who was overbearing. Now, I'm not going to kick Mack Rhoades while he's down, but I have heard from a couple high-profile assistant coaches, head coaches who became assistants that were at Baylor, who said every Saturday, Mack Rhoades would be in the huddle. He'd be on the sideline. He'd be with the players. He'd be with the coaches. And it became such an overbearing presence that it was a distraction for the Baylor football team. And if anybody's been to a game, you saw that with Mack Rhoades. And Ward, you could say it as a football coach, right? When there is a human being, athletic director, assistant athletic director, a police officer, who doesn't show up to practice once during the week, who doesn't know lick about the work that goes into this program, but shows up on Saturdays and wants to be in your huddle, that is not good. That is cancerous for a football program. And it's what Mac did toward the end of that tenure, even more so to try to keep Dave in line, keep the team in line. But if you're not at practice on Monday or Tuesday, not in the film room on Sunday night, then how can you know what to do and how to direct on Saturday? Mac couldn't do that. So the excitement that I have is, and Baylor goes to the cupcake man for athletic director that did Magnolia for a few years. We'll see how that works out. But now you can just, Dave Aranda said at the press conference, and I thought it was actually pretty good. He was like, you know what? I just get to be a head football coach now. I don't have to call plays. I'm a little more relaxed. Like I just get to do what I need to do. And so that the excitement you can derive, and I don't think that hope should be in there, but excitement can be, is from Dave Aranda getting to operate without somebody looking over his shoulder. He finally gets to show us what he can do without an overarching, overbearing figure above him. Maybe that's what brings Baylor back, when he can focus on all of the 30,000 foot stuff, and a defensive coordinator can be the defensive coordinator. Today's show is brought to you by Rugiet, man. It's time to be Rugiet ready. Rugiet ready. It opens a conversation that we should probably have more often about the bedroom. And with Rugiet, this is something we don't usually bring up, but we should. We're talking about a next-generation prescription treatment created to support both the brain and the body. You can feel present, confident, ready when the time comes. Most men are ready in about 15 minutes on average, so you can stay present and confident in the bedroom. And over 150,000 men have already made the switch. So it's time for you to do the exact same. Connect with a board-certified doctor online. Everything ships discreetly to your door as well. 3 clinically proven ingredients. If you've been thinking about taking the next step, now is the time. Head to Rugiet.com/LockedOnCollege, Rugiet.com/LockedOnCollege to get 15% off your order for a limited time. Rugiet ready. Feel present. Feel confident. Feel ready with Rugiet.
Last week, it was announced that Kyle Whittingham would step down after 21 seasons. Do you like the hire of the defensive coordinator to be the head coach? And do you see Utah kind of slipping downwards this upcoming year in the Big 12?
I think Utah will stay really right where they are. I think Morgan Scalley being the head coach in waiting the last couple of years set the tone that donors, the athletic department, the players, the fan base could get ready and be ready for him to be the guy. And now that he is, there's a lot of excitement around Salt Lake City that he'll be able to win. The weird piece of this is Whittingham told the program a couple of years ago, hey, kind of my end date is 2024. 2024 comes around. They're ready to appoint Scalley as the head coach. Whittingham says, we went 5-7. I want one more run. And then Scalley didn't love it. The athletic department didn't love it. But they said, okay, fine. We'll give you one more year. Takes his extra year. Whittingham goes 10-2, possibly 11-1, probably, or I say 11-2, probably 11-2. And then last week they go in the office and say, okay, Whit, you said you were done this year. And he said, well, I was just kidding. I don't want to be done. And by now, this head coach in waiting has been waiting so long, and the program's so excited to move on because the new shiny toy is sitting right there. Whittingham said, fine, you can force me out the door. I'll step down because I said I would, but I'm not done coaching. I want to find a location if I'm not able to be on the staff here at Utah. So there's still a chance he ends up at Utah next year on staff somewhere, but he's also in the name. He's in the name pool for jobs as big as Michigan right now. There's a way Kyle Whittingham's on the sidelines next year. It's a very weird, one-of-a-kind situation happening in Salt Lake City right now.
Drake Toll with us in the press box here on ESPN Central Texas. And Drake, basketball for the Big 12. There for a while, it was the best conference, arguably, in the country. Has it taken a step back, or is it still the best conference in the country, in your opinion?
I think we're still looking at the best league in all of college basketball, and that's indicative because nearly half the top 10 is still out of the Big 12, and Kansas just got back maybe the best player in the conference in Darren Peterson. Now that Darren Peterson is back with the Jayhawks, they're going to look different. They're going to look better. This league is riddled with incredible talent. The number 1 team in the country, Arizona, comes from the Big 12 conference. They're sitting at 9-0, and their schedule, their resume, top-notch, as good as it can get through the first 9 games. They've beaten number 3 Florida, number 15 UCLA. They beat number 3 UConn on the road. They beat number 20 Auburn 97-68, and then knocked off number 12 Alabama 96-75. They're blowing teams out that are top caliber squads in the country. The fact that they're number 1 gives the Big 12 a lot of boost, a lot of bump. AJ DeBonsa is another one of the best freshmen in the country. He plays over at BYU. The fact that Texas Tech is number 19, yet struggling right now, still a top 20 team, but didn't look incredible against Arkansas, shows you a lot. And Baylor is still a March Madness team. Houston still has a lot of room to grow and become one of the top 5 teams in the country. The Big 12 is in a fine. So Oklahoma State's 9-1. Arizona State's 9-2. The Big 12's in a fine spot to call itself the best conference in college basketball still. And I didn't even bring up undefeated 11-0 Iowa State.
Drake Toll with us in the press box here on this Tuesday. Drake, always appreciate the time. Have a great week, and we'll catch up with you next week.
Ward, it's always fun. Happy holidays to everybody there. Merry Christmas, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, there he goes. Drake Toll. Appreciate the time and the insight from Drake. Stay right there. More coming your way right here in the press box.
Dose grande.